Welcome everybody to the 2025-26 statewide transportation research program requests for proposals informational webinar. Thank you all for being here today. As you heard on login, please be aware that this webinar is being recorded. So my name is Sandra Hemingway. I am the new Research and Outreach Manager for UCITS, and I'm excited to be here managing the RFP, working with you, our wonderful researchers, um, as you build, connect, and share your research. Okay. So this is our ninth year for the RFP. It's my first year, but a ninth year for the RFP overall. It was just released this week on Tuesday. So I'll give you a brief overview of CITS for our newer researchers on the call, and then I'll review the RFP timeline, requirements, and process. And we will finish the call with an open Q&A. If you have any questions, you can post them in the Q&A box that is at the bottom of your screen. Go ahead and add them there. I won't be monitoring that while I'm presenting, but we will review and answer all the questions at the end of the presentation. We also have some of our assistant directors on the call, and they may choose to answer one of the questions within that Q&A box during the presentation, or they may interrupt me if there's a clarification or question that needs to be addressed immediately. So for those just joining, as a reminder, this will be recorded, and the recording will be posted next week, hopefully by the end of Monday. Okay, so an introduction of University of California Institution of Transportation Studies. So the UCITS is a community of scholars, staff, and students dedicated to advancing the state of the art in transportation engineering, planning, and policy for the people of California and beyond. It's the preeminent transportation research center in the world. We have 4 branches located at UC Berkeley, UC Davis, UC Irvine, and UCLA. They are respectively called ITS Berkeley, ITS Davis, ITS Irvine, and UCLA ITS. Among those 4 branches, we have over 225 affiliated faculty and researchers. That does include folks that are joining us from our other UCs that are maybe not part of an ITS, but are participating in some of the research that we do. So we are very proud that we conduct multidisciplinary transportation research. We cover over 30 different disciplines, including engineering, urban planning, public policy, economics, public health, and computer science. And among all of those disciplines, we have over 250 master's and doctoral students pursuing degrees each year. So we have quite a few people that are participating in our program. So to introduce some of the leads in our program, we have our UCITS executive team here. There are 4 center directors who are the council of directors that oversee the governing and decision-making of the program. So you'll see here we're starting off with Daniel Rodriguez. He is the current chair of the Council of Directors. He's the Chancellor's Professor of City and Regional Planning at UC Berkeley. He's the director of ITS Berkeley. Then we have Steve Ritchie. He is Professor of Civil and Environmental Engineering at UC Irvine, and he's director of ITS Irvine. Dan Sperling is a distinguished professor of civil engineering and environmental science at UC Davis, and he is the director of ITS Davis. And then one of our newer additions, Adam Millard Ball. He is professor of urban planning and public policy at UCLA, and he's the new director of UCLA ITS. And then we have Susan Shaheen. She is a professor of civil engineering and environmental science at UC Berkeley, and she's the director of UCITS Resilient and Innovative Mobility Initiative, also known as RIMI, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. Um, and then we have Laura Podolsky. She is the executive director of UCITS. And I have a little bit of a cold, so if I start sneezing or have to take a break, she may jump in and take over for me while I take care of my symptoms. Um, so this is our executive team. Then here we have our administrative leadership. These individuals are your point people on campus and are responsible for the ground implementation of the projects. They are the go-to resources for each campus. They are knowledgeable and do really incredible work. So as you ask questions about the RFP, the questions will be directed to them as the campus lead. Their contact information is on the UCITS website, which I am dropping into the chat. And you can, of course, message some of them in the chat here as they've joined the call. We have Laura Melendi, Assistant Director at ITS Berkeley. She's not able to be on the call right now, but you can reach out to her individually. Lauren Iacobucci is Assistant Director at ITS Davis. Craig Rint is Assistant Director for Research Coordination at ITS Irvine. Juan Matute is Deputy Director at UCLA ITS. Whitney Willis is Assistant Director at UCLA ITS. And as you can see, they've joined on camera here, so you can see their lovely faces and get to know who you are working with. Okay, and so in addition to our assistant directors and our directors, we have many individuals working across the campus to support the research programs you conduct through this RFP program. And I'd like to highlight a few of them. We have Adonia Lugo. You can see her on camera as well. She is our ITS Equity Research Manager, and she's based out of the UCLA ITS office. She will be giving a presentation later on equity in research. And then we have Kendra Levine, who is our ITS Library Director, and she's on camera as well. She's based at ITS Berkeley and will be giving a presentation on publications. And then we have our fantastic communication lineup. Jared Sun, he's the systems manager and website support. He is based out of ITS Irvine. Alejandra Soto, she is our webinar and event specialist. She's based out of ITS Davis. And then Mark Garrett, our copy editor at Extraordinaire. He is affiliated with UCLA ITS and based in Ohio. So these are the fantastic people supporting our program and this RFP that you guys are all applying to. So now to jump into that RFP, the 2025-26 RFP. A little background, in 2017, we were fortunate enough to have the UCITS included in the Road Repair and Accountability Act, or SB1, also known as the gas tax increase. We receive $5 million annually to support research, education, and outreach activities that inform transportation policy, planning, and engineering issues in California. So we will be awarding approximately 2.8 million total this year. The amounts vary by campus, as you can sort of see by the breakdown here. And we're really happy to be including again our non-ITS UC partners in this year's funding as well. So we'll have several awards going out to people across other UC campuses. So here are the key dates and activities for this year's RFP that you want to be aware of. Like I said, we released the RFP on Tuesday and have the informational webinar now, which, like I said, is being recorded and will be shared on our website, hopefully by the end of Monday. Then we will also be sharing the PowerPoint as a PDF to everybody. Um, so be on the lookout for that on Monday. Um, then if you are including a statement of support from a stakeholder partner in your proposal and you need assistance in identifying that partner, you will need to make your request by the end of the month, April 30th, 5 p.m. That will just give us time to reach out to you, learn about your project, and conduct some analysis to help identify a partner and connect you with them. Most important on this key dates list is that your proposals must be submitted by 5 p.m. on May 20th. That is not started at 5 p.m. That is completed with you clicking the submit button at 5 p.m. So please make sure you have ample time to sit down and enter the information into the form before that 5 p.m. time on May 20th. Then we're going to have our notices of those who have received awards or those who have not received awards by Tuesday, August 5th. And your project start date will be the first day of the fall quarter or semester of this year. Now, I'll also note that we are not hosting drop-in equity work this year, but our equity research manager, Adonia, she will be available for consultations, which you can request through the RFP questions form. So speaking of some of this form and important links, I want to share our RFP website, dropping that into the chat as well. On that website, you can download the RFP, download the proposal template, submit. If I have the link to submit your proposal, and the very important submitting a question about the RFP, there's a link to that where you can access the RFP questions form. From that RFP questions form, you'll also be able to request help, like I said, finding a stakeholder partner, request that equity consultation with Adonia, review, ask for a review on your current project deliverables, or if you have anything outstanding, learn about your PI eligibility as a PI, and many other things. Then we also have a list of FAQs on the website currently based on questions that we had last year, and we'll be updating that this year based on questions that are asked in this webinar. And then, of course, you'll be able to find contact information for all of the support folks that are helping out in this RFP process. The second link I'd like to share is the resources for current grantees. I'm dropping that into the chat as well. We really encourage you to read the grant requirements and expectations document prior to designing your proposal, as it will help you design a stronger proposal. So bookmark that web link and look at the this year's grant requirements and expectations document to learn more about what's expected. You'll also be able to learn more about open access journals, which can serve as your final report deliverable, and Kendra will be discussing that more later in the webinar. Okay, so that special link for submitting your questions, I have dropped it into your chat. These are all the things that you could ask through the form and more. So just if you need help, ask. We're ready to support you. Don't wait to ask. Do it as soon as possible, and we'll make sure that we get answers to you. Okay, now to go over what is different this year. If you have applied in the past, these will be important to you. If you haven't, then it won't be as relevant, but that's okay. So to start off, we have offered some clarifications around PI eligibility at each campus. So please review that information and submit a question through the RFP question form if you want to check on your deliverables or eligibility. funding provided to community-based organizations through the proposal has been clarified um, to say that proposals which incorporate the meaningful participation of community-based organizations can exceed the maximum funding amount for the project type. In general, the excess amount should not exceed 25% of the maximum funding amount for the proposal type, and the funding to the CBO should not exceed 20% of the total budget. We have offered an example in the RFP itself, so please read that example if you are considering this so that you can make sure you adhere to these uh, requirements. Now, we have also changed it so that the letter of support is now optional unless the proposed topic does not fall into one of the leading 8 research priority areas. So again, you won't need to include that letter of support if it falls into the priority areas and the subtopics of those priority areas. But if you want to do something outside of that, you will need to show a letter of support. And as I mentioned previously, funding for non-ITS UC campuses has returned. So we're excited to welcome back our other campuses into our fold. Okay, so this is the list of our priorities for the year. I'm not going to go over each one, but I'm listing it here for your reference now and for later if we want to jump back into it during the Q&A. If you have any questions about these priorities, you can reach out directly through that RFP questions form or ask them at the end of the meeting. All right, so now I am going to turn it over to our Equity Research Manager, Adonia Lugo, to discuss the resources available to everybody.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. As Sandra said, I am the Equity Research Manager for the UC Institute of Transportation Studies, and my name's Adonia. So, as the slide here says, advancing transportation equity is a priority for California and for our research program. So, I have created an equity worksheet that is linked from the RFP document for anyone who wants to look through that and get ideas of how to bring more equity into your research proposal. There's links in there to examples of past ITS funded research that illustrate some of the aspects of equity that are discussed in the worksheet. I'm especially interested in helping to support with setting up partnerships with community-based organizations or other kinds of entities that historically were not included in the research process. So that's something I'm really available to help advise on. You can schedule a time to chat with me from the equity worksheet document. I've got a link in there to my Google Calendar and happy to discuss pretty much any and everything. Of course, the earlier, the better for your proposal planning purposes. But if you have, sort of basic questions like, isn't equity something we're not supposed to be talking about? Feel free to schedule a consultation with me and we can explore that further. And I'm happy to, take a look at what you're putting together and see if I can identify some places where you might be able to take advantage of resources that are in place. For example, many of our researchers do work in partnership with or in coordination with public agencies, and many public agencies in California in transportation and beyond have formal equity advisory committees or councils or other ways that internally they're working to make sure that the kinds of programs they're making available are reaching more people in California. So I'm happy to help do a little bit of the footwork to help you connect the dots between the project you're proposing and where that work might be happening at an agency, or in other ways, just, provide some ideas. In terms of bringing in equity, if this is an area you're not familiar with, I've really heard from speaking to researchers across the campuses that thinking in the context of your project is often the most useful way to try and make some of these connections. So really, I'm just happy to talk with folks who are at any stage of thinking about where social good fits into the project that they want to do. And I think I've covered this one. You want to go to the next slide, Sandra? So we have a number of people in our research network who, do a lot of work centering equity in their research. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of my colleagues who are really great resources in this area. So Kendra Levine, who's on, our wonderful librarian, is also very knowledgeable about what kinds of community-based organizations might be working around transportation up in the Berkeley area, and other opportunities there. And then at Davis, Juan Carlos or JC Garcia Sanchez is very, very knowledgeable about organizations. He helps to run an environmental justice leaders program at Davis and has been a coordinator in the past of the Transportation Equity and Environmental Justice Advisory Group, TJAG, that Davis had set up. So I'm not the only one in our network by any means who has good insight on these topics. So feel free to reach out to colleagues as well if you want to get some more information that might be specific to your region, because I'm based down here in Los Angeles, and I know a lot about community-based organizations in the LA and Orange County area, but I probably won't be the best resource for our Bay Area and central-based folks. And that's it for me. Again, you can find that link to schedule a consultation with me on the equity worksheet that's linked in the RFP document. And I'll also put my email in the chat box. You can just reach out to me directly.
Wonderful. Thank you, Adonia. And you can also submit a request for the consultation through that RFP questions document if you would like. There's her email that she just put into the chat for everybody to record for future questions. All right. So now I would like to share about the 3 project types that are eligible for funding. We have the applied research projects, and this is where you close a knowledge gap on important issues and involve original sort of data acquisition or analysis. We expect that people will be able to receive up to $100,000 per participating branch. And when I say participating branch, I'm talking about if there's a multi-campus collaboration, each campus could receive up to $100,000, up to $400,000 total if there are 4 campuses. Then we have the research synthesis. This is summarizing existing research and pointing out critical relevance for policy and practice audiences for $25,000 to about $40,000. We have the translational projects, which is also something similar in scope that helps make previous research more accessible to the policy or practitioner audience, and that is $40,000 to $60,000. So who is eligible to apply? You must be a researcher from UC Berkeley, Davis, Irvine, or UCLA, and I did not correct this. I apologize. The slide should include other UC campuses as well. My apologies. I'll make sure that's corrected when we send out the final slides. You must be eligible to serve as a PI at your campus, and that definition changes from campus to campus slightly. So please read the full RFP to ensure you are eligible. Postdoctoral researchers submitting proposals as the PI. Again, they also must meet campus-specific criteria that are listed on the RFP. So please read that in full. And then please know that researchers are limited to being listed as a lead PI on only 1 applied research project and as a co-PI on 1 additional applied research project. So that's a slight change from previous years. So when you assemble your teams and you're looking at the different projects, please be aware of that and make sure that you are situating yourself and your colleagues appropriately. And then you cannot have outstanding or past due deliverables for any previously awarded UCITS projects. Um, that's clarified in the RFP as well. And if you have any questions about these eligibility requirements, please submit your questions on the RFP questions form. I'm just going to drop that in the chat one more time so that you guys can bookmark it and be ready to ask your questions there, in addition to at the end on this call. For anybody that joined us late, please put any questions that you have in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We'll be getting to those at the end of the call. Okay, some tips for preparing successful budgets. Here are many things we recommend you do. First, use your campus template. Every campus has a specialized budget that they must prepare, except for UC Berkeley. UC Berkeley, you're going to use the budget that is included in the RFP template, in the proposal template. But do look at your campus template and start filling that out early. Um, you're only going to need to include direct costs, meaning there is no overhead. It's a sort of 0%. We do recommend you include GSR funding on the applied research projects. It will make the proposal more competitive, but please know that it's not a requirement, but it is highly recommended. Non-resident tuition is allowed. Funding for CBOs and NGOs are allowed, and I spoke to that a little bit earlier about the amounts. And then definitely start working with your budget analysts as soon as possible. They always have many other things on their plate besides just the project that you're submitting. So the sooner you can share information with them and start evaluating what your budget looks like, the better. You will need to include a detailed budget justification. And remember, as you're formulating this, be cost effective. If you have any questions, as always, just ask. Send a question into that RFP form. I'm going to keep telling you that over and over. Um, so here are some things to avoid. No international travel. We do not fund that. And we don't fund domestic travel outside of California, including for TRB. But we do promote you traveling within California to a conference to share your work. We do highly recommend that. It's a nice way to share the research results. Like I said again, don't include that overhead. The F&A rate is 0% for this RFP. Um, limit your funding for computers and equipment. Focus on the people and the research you're conducting with them. Organizations and individuals other than ITS researchers and CBOs and NGOs is discouraged. And again, do not wait to work with your budget and analyst. Please reach out to them as soon as possible, and so that they are not getting 10 different proposals at requests at the very end, like 2 days before they're due. Okay, so those are some tips for budgets. Now some tips for submitting a multi-campus proposal. Um, the four campuses, the four campuses with ITS and then all the additional UCs that are participating are welcome to work together to submit a multi-campus proposal. I'll note that the four campuses are a multi-campus research unit, so this is why we are really encouraging you to design multi-campus proposals that can have you working across disciplines with other campuses. So To start off, you want to assemble and describe your project team. You'll be identifying your lead PI and co-PIs from other campuses. And you'll want to use the collaboration plan section to describe how your team will work together. Try to make this cohesive and be sure that it's really you describe how everybody is working together and not in separate silos. Then you're going to want to prepare your budget. You will be entering a full budget in the project budget summary table, but then you will also be producing separate budgets for each campus involved. So those are listed within the RFP with links to each budget. So be sure that you include both pieces in your multi-campus proposal. And if you notice in the chat, Lauren Jacopucci did mention a note for UC Davis applicants, so please look at that if you're from UC Davis. Now, to talk about the result of your research, we have some minimum required deliverables. These are sort of the bare minimum of what we ask you to do. We really encourage you to do more than this, but we do need these at minimum. So we've got the three different project types, and you can include a final report and a translational product. The translational product used to be a policy brief. Now it's a policy brief and many other options that I'll be going over shortly. Applied research project and research synthesis needs both those items. The translational project only needs the translational product. So there are two options for producing a final deliverable report. We have the open access article or preprint article, which is a preferred deliverable because it puts your research in front of your peers for a more thorough review. Your res your research peers will be better equipped to understand the topic you're discussing in detail, provide you with more helpful feedback. Our copy editors and reviewers are still very adept at providing thorough reviews and suggestions, but they may not be as familiar with the nuances in your research. If you do choose to publish an article, it's important that the publications are publicly available because the funding comes from the California taxpayer. So the products must be accessible without a fee to the California taxpayer for these final two deliverables that we're talking about. I'm not the expert on this, but Kendra Levine will be talking about that momentarily and give you more details. So the second option briefly is the UCITS report. Um, you will be using the ITS template that we provide, or if your center has a specific template, we can also use that, or you can also use that, but you must acknowledge UCITS funding and include a technical report documentation page or a TDRP to ensure the details of the report are easily shared and reviewed with the public. So now I would like to pass the baton to Kendra Levine to discuss your rights as a UC researcher.
Thanks, Sandra. So, this might be news to you, to some of you, or this might be a repeating or stuff you already know. Not everyone thinks about their open access rights and publishing as much as others. For me, I think about this a lot. So if you have any questions or if you're ever confused by the system, it's not you. The system is confusing for scholarly publishing. So please feel free to reach out to me. So there are two UC open access policy or mandates that our PIs are covered by. The first one was this Senate open access policy from 2013. And then 10 years ago, the Office of the President made a policy that covered all students and staff as an extension of the faculty as well. So everyone has the right to publish an open access version of their research. And there are many different ways to do this. You can do it and the terminology changes by publisher, so that's part of the reason it's confusing. So you can either do it by paying an article processing charge, which is also known as an APC, or you can put the author final manuscript version or your preprint into an open access repository, which eScholarship was designed to do that. For UC ITS resources for current grantees, we have there's a list of resources and information on the UC ITS website that you should refer to. It has a link to a list of transportation journals and relevant information. A number of publishers have open access agreements with the UC system. These system-wide agreements have discounts for the article processing charges, the APC, as well as for some publishers. And some of these agreements, like Elsevier, cover everything published by Elsevier. Some of them, I know Springer Nature, like we can cover the APC, or there's ways to get funding for the APC for Springer titles, but for Nature, you just get a discount. So that list on the UC Office of the President website has the whole list of agreements, and so you should refer to that please contact me if you have any questions. And we have the links to, I think Sandra's putting the links to the chat to the UC Open Access policy and the list of publishers that have those deals. When you're planning to publish, this is something I think a lot of people don't think about until when you start your research project, but I think it's good to think about where you're going to be publishing and what the deliverables will be at the end. So if you're choosing to go the open access article route instead of a final report, you should be mindful of the timelines, and you should budget for the APC if you're planning to go that route. You don't have to budget for the APC if you want to do an open access article if you publish the preprint instead. But if you are going to publish a fully open access article such that it's open on the publisher's end, then you should be budgeting the article processing charge. And if you have questions about what that should be, we have the link, the list of journals with the APCs. It's about $2,500 to $3,000 on average for a lot of the transportation journals. But again, you don't have to do that if you want to do the preprint route instead, and people will still have access to the article. And I think it's also really important to keep in mind the publishing timelines with what we need to close out the projects. I know publishing can take a really long time. Some journals have pretty quick turnarounds from the time to review to the decision, and some journals it can take a year or more. And especially once you start putting in the review time, that goes back and forth. But that can also delay the closing of the project. And so think about that when you start going through the publication process of like how much time you actually have to publish this, and thinking about, certain venues might be, perhaps less prestigious than others, but they might have a more timely publication process than, transportation research part A or so. But again, if you have any questions about that, please reach out to me, because this is something that I can help you navigate. And I think that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kendra. Yeah, and I dropped in the RFP question link again so that you can send your questions through there, and we'll send them right to Kendra to have them answered whenever it relates to one of these publications. Okay, so next up, we want to share some tips for selecting a translational product. These are some things we just want to emphasize as you consider what you're going to produce. Remember, when you start off, remember the goal. Produce research with impact on California policy or practice. And then it's important to make the findings to those who can accessible to those who can put your research into action. We really want to have the policymakers, the practitioners, and community leaders understanding what you're sharing and able to make changes based upon the research you've done. You'll want to, at the start, pick an approach. Like I said, define your audience. Who is in a position to use this, or who can benefit from the research? Is it that policymaker? Is it the practitioner, somebody in the community? And how are you going to reach them? What's the way that you're going to communicate these results with them? Which communication vehicle has the highest likelihood of reaching or being used by your audience? And as always, seek support. Reach out to us if you would like consult with one of our communication, event, or outreach specialists. They can talk you through what a webinar would include, what could be posted in a blog, all sorts of stuff. We're here to help. There are many, many options for translational products. We've got written materials, which include the policy briefs that I've mentioned previously, op-eds, articles, blogs. We've had people do podcasts, join radio announcements and share their research there. People give presentations, like I said, either webinars or events targeted at policymakers and practitioners that are direct to them. And then you can also make videos, just record your information, your self-presenting the research or some other type of video that shares the research. You can design a website to host the information that people can access. But think through this on who your audience is and what they would find most useful. So I'm going to share a few of these. We've got here our classic policy brief. Like I said previously, it's no longer a requirement. You can do one of and many of these translational products, but we do have copy editors and policy staff available to review this and assist with you with the creation of it. They're great summary documents targeted to our busy policymakers. The top highlight is sort of the finding, and it's the header that then has a body of supported notes. Policymakers have actually copy and pasted information from these directly into the bills that they put forth. So these are great ways to put your research into action. Then here we have some blogs that I can share from internal and external opportunities. We had ITS has their own blog for transportation and climate. Now, not everybody will be able to post to the individual campus blogs, but there are many other blogs, as you know, throughout California that you can share information on. Another one, the Energy Efficiency Institute, they have a blog where a lot of research is shared. And then some people have shared their research in external blogs like Planetization. So those are some nice options. Then we have the Transfers magazine. This is produced by UCLA ITS. So if you're at UCLA ITS, you might want to consider seeing if you can publish some of your findings in here. It's a digital magazine that takes newly peer-reviewed articles and sort of transforms them into articles for the print practitioner audience. If you're not subscribed right now, I recommend it. I've dropped the link to the magazine in the chat. So you can check it out on your own. And then we also talked about op-eds. So this is an effective way to get information to that practitioner audience. We had Madeline Brosnan at UCLA ITS shared an opinion article. And then we have Dan Sperling, he at ITS Davis, he shared an opinion article in New York Times. And another one here by Tim Lippman at ITS Berkeley for the San Francisco Chronicle. We have communication staff, we have writers that can help you in developing an op-ed if you do wish to go this route. There are also podcasts, internal and external. You might have heard of UCLA Housing Voice. That's one that we've had some of our researchers join and talk about their work. There's Berkeley Voices, the Wonder Mobility podcast at Berkeley. Susan Shaheen was on this podcast at one point. There's Street Blog, and then Freakonomics. You might have heard that one. Brian Taylor from UCLA ITS was on that one as well. And of course, presentations and panels. These are some great conferences here that are always looking for speakers and panelists. I recommend looking them up, learning when they open their requests for presentations, reaching out to the leads of the conferences and seeing if you can be put into their program. Uh, Beyond the statewide ones, there are some regional ones also listed, like the Southern California Associated of Governments, that you may want to consider presenting at. Okay, so you're gonna design your proposal, write it, submit it, and then it is going to be evaluated and scored. So as you are writing and designing it, you'll want to consider the scoring here. This chart here is taken directly from the RFP. I'm not going to go into detail on it, but definitely review what you're going to be scored on here. And as you're creating your proposal, make sure that you include all these and hit all these points so that you can get the max points possible on your scoring. And here is your checklist. When you are ready to submit, use the proposal template. You can remove the directions, but don't change the headings. We suggest that you have 2 copies of the final proposal on hand. One will be a Word copy, and then one will be a PDF. You'll want to be able to copy the information from the Word document into the submission portal. So that's why we recommend having both. And then at the end of the submission form, you will be uploading the PDF version of your proposal. And if applicable, have your budget in Excel format ready for uploading. This is the link this is the link for the form that you are going to be submitting your proposal through. Remember, you'll want to submit it before 5 p.m. PT Pacific time on May 20th. I've dropped it into the chat so that you can find it easily there. Yeah, you have to submit it before 5 p.m. So be sure to sit down a couple hours or something beforehand so that you can copy paste everything in without any issues. I will note the proposal website application does save the information you have typed into the form in the web browser's local cache. So if you close your browser and open the same browser on the same type of computer, your answers will show up. However, many things can go wrong with this. Like if you clear your cache, the information will be removed. If you try to visit from a different computer or a different browser type, or if you're using an incognito mode, there are many things that can go wrong with this, so please do not rely on it. We really recommend that you complete the submission in a single sitting. And once you submit, check for a confirmation email after you hit that submit button. It should go directly to your inbox. And that's it. We can now take questions. I'll stop my screen share to review the chat questions. Just a reminder, the webinar was recorded and I'll be sharing it on the website. And we'll look forward to seeing your proposals when you submit them. All right. So I've stopped the screen share, looking in the chat. I am not seeing anything in chat or in the Q&A, but if you have a question and would like to add it to that little Q&A box, we would love to answer it right now. Or if you want to raise your hand, either digitally with the react button or turn on your camera. Oh, the Q&A box isn't showing.
You may have to look under the more option, the circle with the 3 dots.
Thank you, Lauren. Yes. Great. Yeah, if the other ADs and Adonia and Kendra want to join on video, then we can all be here to answer questions for you. And that way you can see all of the folks' wonderful faces and know who you're communicating with. Ah, Fraser, I see you have a question. Go ahead.
Thanks. It was gonna take less time to do it this way than typing it all in. I was wondering for the letters of interest or support, or the letters that are intended to accompany the proposal, the external letters, are those, do they have to be Caltrans letters, or could they be any transportation entity or other kinds of partners? What kind of letters should we think about, or are we restricted to? Thanks.
Yeah, so statement of support from any public agency. So state is okay in California. I should clarify though. In California, state, regional, local transit agencies, and then if you have a CBO participating in the research, a statement of support from them.
Okay, so you guys said opposite things, so I'll just clarify. So a letter from Caltrans is okay.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Lauren. I see some chats or some questions in the question and answer. Liz Kelly, hi, the 300K for the non-UCs, is that 300K per campus or split between campuses? It is, we are awarding up to 300K, so that could be 6 projects of 50K each. It could be 2 projects of 50K and 2 projects of 100K each. It really depends on the proposals that we receive, but it's 300 in total. Jill Rogers, can CBOs be town councils or law enforcement? Lauren, can you help?
I'll actually give this one to Adonia.
So we're looking at something in the Q&A. I missed where the question
The
is.
question is, can CBOs be town councils or law enforcement?
Definitely not town councils, because that would be well, it sounds like that would be part of the municipal government. So I would say that's just a different kind of partner. Law enforcement, similarly, if it's a public agency, then I would think that that wouldn't be the same thing as a community-based organization. If you're talking about like a police union or foundation that has nonprofit status, then I think that would probably count. So yeah, hope that clarifies.
Great, thank you. And if you need further clarification, if you have something specific in mind, you can submit a question or add it to our discussion here. Han-Sung Kim, I see your question is, if 2 labs from the same university are collaborating and submitting a proposal together, are we considered as 2 participating branches or just 1? Lauren, have you had experience with this?
I would say one. It's one campus.
1 campus. Whitney agrees. Okay. Wonderful. So we'll go with 1 campus for that. Thank you, everybody, for your help on that. I am still learning some specifics of these proposals. Okay, so those are the questions in the Q&A. From the chat, I see there was a question on, are the 7 topics prioritized from 1 to 7? Thank you, Craig. Yes, the answer is no, they are not. I believe there were 8, and there's not one that is favored over another. So we'll accept proposals on them all. Any other questions immediately? No? Okay. Then in that case, we will go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and thank you to our presenters, the ADs for joining. We appreciate all of your input, and we are looking forward to seeing everybody's proposals and working with you on your projects. Remember to submit additional questions through that RFP questions form, and we'll look forward to hearing from you. All right. Have a wonderful afternoon, everybody. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Sandra.